Hey, folks, we are back once again with Erika Brown of the Cricket coming to us from her office in Manchester by the Sea to talk all things Manchester and Essex. How you doing, Erika?
I'm doing great, Corey. How are you?
I'm great. Good to see you again. We're coming off a fun weekend. We were at two different events. I was at Magtoberfest, but you were at the Cardboard Box Regatta.
Yeah, I mean, it had to have been the perfect day of the year. It was the day after like all the rain in the Columbus Day weekend, Saturday, and then on Sunday it was Magtoberfest. Could not be a better day for a beer garden,
Mm-hmm.
right? In Magnolia. So was
Yeah,
that fun? A lot of people came.
it was packed. It was a great time.
I'm sorry I missed it. And the reason I missed it was because I was at the You got to go this next year,
I
Cardboard
know.
Box Regatta. It's not really the Cardboard Box Regatta. I always call it that. It's
Yeah,
actually the Manchester by the Sea, and it was the 13th annual Cardboard Boat Regatta.
there we go.
As if, I mean, it's a little bit of redundant with boat and regatta, but that's okay. Anyway, so it was the Cardboard Box Regatta, which has been obviously going on for years. It started with just a private group of maybe 6 or 8 friends trash talking each other at the Hofeld's house, on the harbor, the inner harbor in Manchester, and now it's on the public boat launch. Hundreds of people every year come out, and this year they had more boats than ever. They ended up having 32 boats that registered, but 28 boats showed up. They had the the steel to actually show up and compete. And this, of course, is the regatta where the only rule is you got to be a little outrageous. It helps if you're a little outrageous, and you put everything together with engineering, creativity, duct taped, and cardboard boxes, and you see what happens. And it is so funny. All right, first of all, I'll get the winners out of the way, right? It was Akshay Patel, one
Yeah.
of what now is going to be the Patel dynasty in, in the cardboard box regatta. He won for the second year in a row. He's got this style of rowing that is just like a rocket. So he won for the second year in a row. And second place for the second year in a row, it was Bernie Romanovsky.
Uh,
So I'm going to spend time on just those two for one reason. Number one, last year, Bernie lost by like, I want to say it was like a fraction of a second. It wasn't. It was probably about like maybe 2 seconds,
yeah.
but it was Bernie Romanovsky. It was like horrible to him last year, and he wanted so badly to win this year. And this year, we're talking a super fit, glasses like mine, super tall, tattoos like sleeves, full sleeves everywhere, and right up, a neck sleeve too. So he cuts quite a swath, right, in Manchester. He's awesome. He's like champion dad, loves to do things outside, and he's clearly highly competitive too. Well, he showed up, and the only reason I talked about what he looked like is his boat was called Granny Panty. And he showed up in a fluffy pink robe with a, like some sort of hat contraption. It was the funniest thing. And slippers. He was awesome. And he tried, but he still lost to Akshay Patel. Anyway, so Akshay, I'm going to just bring this up too. The reason I said he's an emerging dynasty is because he's been going for years, but he's always been with his two daughters, who I don't know if they are twins or not, but they look like twins. They're awesome. I've seen them race since they were very young, and now they're kind of mid-teens. They're growing. They look like young women now, and they're gorgeous. And they had 3 boats this year, as they do every year, right? Akshay won, and they had a theme going on with their family. So they had, and I got to remember this, I got to make sure. His was BS, that was his boat, Bullship. His, oh my gosh, his daughters were like Tough Ship, and you know what I mean? Tough Ship and whatever. It was the ship theme. It was hilarious, and that was awesome. Okay, so some of the other highlights, I'll just say really quickly, some of the other names were just hilarious. They were names like, and I'm going to read them because they were
Yeah.
just so funny. Tropic like it's hot, drop it like it's hot, right? There was Barbenheimer, which was hilarious.
Yeah.
And Barbenheimer was done by the same guy who last year, remember the Cuisine de France?
Yes.
Okay, the Cuisine de France was a boat that was unbelievable in its seaworthiness. It was a 6-man Viking ship, and everyone on it, they had smoke bombs coming off of it. They all dressed in fur Viking vests and horned helmets and blew these horns, and it was a massive dragon on the front of it. 6 people got in that mother and finished perfectly. Like, it was amazing. But it was called the Cuisine de France.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was the only one going, what's up with the Cuisine de France? Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And they were all holding baguettes and acting like they were rowing with it. It was like bizarre. Felt like I was in another world. Well, 2 things. Number 1, Barbenheimer was a solo ship, and it was by the same guy, Olsen, who was the designer and the engineer for Cuisine de France last year. And his son this year had his own boat called Bruised Wayne, for Bruce Wayne, and he was dressed up like Batman. And he, like the Patel girls, last year he was like mid-height. Now he's like 6'2", this kid, and he won the kids division with Bruised Wayne. His father had Oppenheimer, you know, Barbenheimer, whatever. Yeah. And he didn't win, but he was hilarious, dressed in pink, head to toe. And when I talked to him, he told me the Cuisine de France. I said, okay, what's up with Cuisine de France? Like, I didn't get it, but I thought it was awesome. And he said, well, it's actually because all the boxes we used came from a company called Cuisine de France. So we figured, what the hell? Love it. Anyway, another shout out I would say to a couple things. Number 1, there were these 2 little kids. They were, I think, the youngest, Apollo 7. I think it was Apollo 7. I got that right. And they were awesome. And they were, you know, sort of like a little scared and like, and they weren't winning. And so everyone kind of brought them in. It was hilarious. And they were so sweet. And then the other thing I would say is there was a Jimmy Buffett inspired tiki hut that tried to take on the whole Cuisine de France concept. It was a 6-seater tiki hut, grass, thatched roof, the whole Megillah, right? And it was like 6 people doing it. And it was called Jimmy's, oh my God, it was like called Jimmy's All You Can Drink Buffet. That's what it was called. Yeah. And it was hilarious to see those guys try to finish. It did not have the same design and engineering prowess as the Cuisine de France, because it started to take on water from the side. And Bob Hofelt, who was on it, he's the co-founder of the race, but he actually raced in it. You could see him on the side, the poor guy. He was trying to like use his body like a plug. Like he's trying to or to bolster up the side just to try to make it to the end. It was hilarious. Okay, I've talked way too long about the Cardboard Box Regatta. It was awesome. It's my favorite of the year in terms of events in Manchester. Hundreds of people showed up. It was beautiful. I'm sorry I didn't make it to Magtoberfest, but here's the thing. I hope they never change it. I hope they never, never, never change this event. I hope it never becomes sort of politically correct. I hope nobody ever sort of judges them for, you know, not being sensitive enough to grannies of the world. And I hope that it's just what it is, which is the only obligation is to laugh, have a really good time, and to actually marvel at these kind of engineering feats that I don't know, maybe I'm alone. I just think it's the best thing in the world.
I just love that you keep mentioning engineering over and
but that's what it is, Kory. That's what it is. Yeah. It's engineering.
Awesome stuff. Okay, folks, you know October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and Erika, the cricket has a great story to share there as well.
It's a great local story, and I love doing this, actually. I'm the one who, I did this story myself. This is a story about Brenda Johnson, who is one of the 2 owners with her husband of Seabreeze Variety in downtown Manchester, otherwise known as Richdale's. Everyone knows it as Richdale's, even though they don't use the name anymore. So it's Richdale's, for lack of a better term. But it's Brenda Johnson and then Deirdre Baker, they happen to be neighbors in the Pleasant Street kind of area of Manchester, which is right in the heart of the village. And they belong to the same book group. And that's how they were friends. They were kind of neighbors, kind of, I would say, just very friendly neighbors kind of thing. They weren't besties, but they certainly knew each other. So Deirdre Baker, she got diagnosed with cancer about a year ago. About a year ago now, she suspected it, around November 2022. So this is a very, very recent kind of story. Then she had it confirmed by like December 21st, right before the holidays. So, and she's the kind of person, she's kind of a spitfire. She's what, my godmother would call her como pólvora, which means like gunpowder. She's like, pew, pew, pew. She's like this kind of just high energy. She's a teacher in the Middleton school system. So she went ahead and said, okay, I'm gonna take hold of this. She and her husband Bill, they called their friends, their daughters were really supportive, the whole thing. They shared, she says, oh, I'm an oversharer. She's such a sweet person. Anyway, so she got diagnosed in December. 2 months later, Brenda Johnson got diagnosed. So they were in the same kind of book club or book group, but they didn't want to be in this club together of breast cancer. Now, Brenda is sort of compatible. If you talk to them, Brenda is this. She's solid, soft. She brings the energy nice and down in a room. Do you know what I mean? Like she's calm. And Deirdre is like high energy, right? So the two of them, I think, kind of helped each other out. I know they helped each other out in terms of information. I mean, Brenda was like, I always felt a little lost, everything. So they got through it together. It's a great story. I highly recommend people read it just because there's some surprising things. Even I didn't know, like I wasn't aware that breast cancer is not hereditary. It's not genetic. Right. Whereas a lot of cancers are. So this whole idea of self-checks and examining, just being on it is super important. And 2 out of every 10 women get breast cancer. So it's important. But this story is a great one about friendship, about getting diagnosed, about going through it together. And by the way, by August, Deirdre, after a lumpectomy, radiation, and chemotherapy, which is really sort of it's a lot. Brenda ended up getting a mastectomy and having chemo. So she didn't have the radiation because she didn't need it. But they're both cancer free. They're both in remission now. And Deirdre got to, at her doctor's office, ring the bell. That's what they do when you're in the clear in August, which is really great. So they'll just be closely watched for the next 5 years. But anyway, that is a great story. I just love it. And they were really just wonderful people who have this great energy about wanting to share their story, not because they want people to feel sorry for them, but because they really genuinely want people to have information and to learn. So there you go.
Sweet stuff, Erika. I appreciate it. Thanks as always. We'll see you this time next week.
Bye.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.